Ten odcinek jest wyjątkowy, bo jest nagrany z anglojęzyczną gościnią, więc będziemy mówić po angielsku. Hi, this is Paulina.
And I'm Aga. In the Design Practice podcast, we talk about the practical aspects of working at the intersection of technology and design.
In this episode, we talk about how not to define yourself in the creative world, how to deal with pressure after creating a viral artwork on social media, about facing burnout, and vibing with various technologies and tools.
Our guest is Joanna Jaskowska, known as Johwska, French with Polish origin. She's a multidisciplinary artist working in the realm of augmented reality. Her AR filter, Beauty 3000, went viral on Instagram and opened a totally new chapter in her career. Joanna worked with many famous brands such as Mercedes Benz, Nike, or Harpers Bazar. Currently, she's based in Madrid, developing her co-working space, Patio Espacio.
You can find notes and links mentioned in this episode in our website, designpractice.pl/063.
If you've been listening to our podcast for a while, we'd be super grateful if you'd give us feedback on Spotify or other platforms. This will help us reach to even more listeners. Thanks a lot in advance. Hi, Joanna.
Hello.
Hello. So we always start with the question, what book have you recently read?
Okay, I have a book next to my bed that is called it's about money. Wait, I can go for it. One moment.
Yeah, sure.
I'm super curious. So it's called The Psychology of Money.
I heard about it. Do you like it?
So yeah, I just started. I like it because I grew up in a family. In a very modest family, and there was no money teaching, and now I'm grown up and I want to do smart investment. I'm a mom, like all of that stuff, and I really want to learn how to be smart about this kind of stuff, because money doesn't make happiness, but money is great tool to make great things.
Yes, exactly. That's a good move then.
Exactly.
Okay, so for the start, tell us what you do, what are you doing for a living, and what's your passion?
Okay, what do I do? I have no clue about what I'm doing. I don't know. To be honest, I'm just vibing. I have a lot of interests. I always been a nerd. I'm really interested with technologies. I'm a creative. Okay, let's start with this. I'm a creative. Okay, yeah, that's a fact. I'm a creative that plays with new technologies. I'm kind of obsessed with all kind of technologies and what we can do with them and how fun it is. I see tools and new technologies as toys. And I see myself as a kid that is playing with toys. That's more or less my passion. Let's say it. Let's see it that way. I'm kind of specialized in augmented reality these days, or these past years, because I've made some very popular face filters on Instagram, and my work went viral. This part of my work went viral, and it's so much fun also. Let's say it. Yeah, I do a lot of many things. I love to play with artificial intelligence these days. I'm super obsessed with this. I love photography. I love the world of fashion and beauty and the future and identities. I love to talk about and to explore about all of these topics.
Great.
Things like this.
Yeah, so for sure we're going to deep dive into some of these topics you mentioned because it's super interesting. But first, to broaden our horizons and the context about you, could you tell us where are you currently based? And as far as we know, you were half Polish. So if you could also tell the story about, like, you know, what are your origins and where do you currently live and create?
Okay. So I'm French from a Polish family. So I'm half French, half Polish. My mom arrived in Paris when she was something like 23, 4, 25, something like this. And she came here to do art studies. Back in the days, the situation in Poland was not that great. And at that specific times when my mom was studying in Paris, my grandfather told her, try to stay in Paris because the situation is bad in Poland. So find a way to stay there. So she did. She stayed in France and she started to make her life there. And she got my sister and then she got me. And I arrived in the world. So yeah, I grew up in the suburbs of Paris where many other immigrant family lives. So I grew up in a very eclectic and very multicultural space, modest, but very rich in its cultural aspects. All of my friends are from family that come from abroad. Vietnamese, Cambodian, Chinese, Moroccan, Algerian, center of Africa. There was like not so many French people and not so many Polish people. Actually, there wasn't any, like we were the only Polish family. It was fun because my grandmother used to live with us on and off. And when we were playing downstairs, like outside, my grandmother didn't see nothing, and when she was calling us to go to eat or have lunch or have dinner, she was screaming in the whole neighborhood, Joanna, Natalia, like in a very Polish way. So all the neighborhood knew that we were the Polish family, and we got this kind of reputation. So yeah, this is where I grew up and how I grew up in the suburb of Paris. And then I did my studies in Paris, and then I realized that Paris was very expensive, difficult. It's more like a survival kind of life. If you don't come from a kind of like a family that has a lot of money and stuff like that, it's like always like for immigrants and like, yeah, it's survival mode. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know it was possible to live in a non-survival mode back in that days. And after travel in Berlin, I realized that I could have a life where I'm not like working as a barman and like working in clubs and working as a freelancer and stuff like this, and I can like focus on myself. So yeah, I moved out in Berlin first, and then I lived there 4 years, and I developed myself as a creative, and I don't know, everything changed at that moment. Actually, I felt more free. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And then I traveled in the United States, and then I don't know, out of the blue I arrived in Spain and then Madrid, and I fell in love with Madrid, and now I'm based here.
Wow.
Okay, that's a great story. And you told us about many possibilities, many ways you make your work. Your art. So let's dive into one of them. We discovered you thanks to your AR work on Instagram. You have almost 500,000 followers on Instagram. That's really a lot. So tell us the story of your Instagram, because you said that it went viral. How it happened?
Yeah, so it's all about kind of linked and related to when I moved out in Berlin. When I moved out there, I started to do my portfolio, look for a real job. Like, as I said, like my life in Paris as a student was like working, studying, working. Then I got tired of studying. I mean, I did 4 years and then I was like, this is so boring. I don't, the typical kind of studies that like they teach you something that, visual communication and multimedia. Like, yeah, it's graphic design multimedia with like, so it's like, yeah, visual arts and design, but with the multimedia touch. And back in the days, the digital world were not what it is today. So my study were a lot about like self-taught. We were learning a lot and doing a lot by ourselves. Basically, tutorial, YouTube, like learning forums. Like this is what I do. Like I'm always learning myself. I'm self-taught, and like my class where I studied was like we were all in the same kind of vibe. Like because teachers were like teaching us Flash and technology that were like actually dying. So. So yeah, that was my studies, and it got like, after 4 years, like got boring because, the typical like they teaching you something that doesn't feels like gonna help you in the real life. Sometimes like study can feel like very abstract, like. So yeah, and also like because, Paris is a very expensive city. I was like working as a bartender, working in festival, working in clubs, I was doing like video mapping, like anything to make sort of like a bit of money. And when I moved to Berlin, like my goal was like, I need to find a real job, like in an office with, like was also to make my mom feel more confidence with what I was doing, because when you're freelancing and when you do like very experimental creative work, like they don't understand what you do. I mean, she still doesn't really understand what I'm doing, but yeah, when I was going in Berlin, my goal was like, okay, let's find a job in an office where I'm like going to the office from 9 to 6 and, and I have a fixed salary. So she feels like, oh, she has a job,
Secure.
Exactly.
And Jan, what was your like dream job at that time? Like, did you see yourself as a graphic designer, or like, how did you define yourself back then?
No clue. I think I had a lot of troubles with like defining myself. Even like at that time when I was doing my portfolio, like one of the biggest insecurity I had was that like, what am I? Like, am I a designer? Am I creative? Am I an artist? Am I interactive designer? What the fuck? Like, I can do this and this and this and that. Like, but I'm nothing. Like. The society pressure when you get fresh out from school and like you need to define what you want, what you do, and you don't really know. Like I have this kind of like a very experimental kind of mindset where I love to try many things and like put my hands in many technologies and tools, like, and so it was terrible for me like to define myself actually. Like when I did my first interview to find a real job in advertising or design studio, the creative director that were interviewing me, they were like, they didn't know where to put me. But that I realized later on that actually was my strength. But back in the days, I had no clue. I was like very insecure, like no experience in a real job and real creative job. And I didn't know nothing about like advertising agencies or like creative design studios and stuff. But yeah, I got lucky enough to I've made like a crazy cool website, like underwater, like a very experimental kind of underwater portfolio that was half a video game, half a website. And this got kind of viral in the design industry. And then, so when I started to get some interviews for advertising agency, like they were like, oh, I know that website. Like, this is actually from you. How cool, blah, blah, blah. And then like, I had, in my first job, I had 2 creative directors. One were more concept and the other one was more design. Like, and they were like, I was in between the two. So I did 1 year like working a little bit there and working a little bit that. I actually didn't know like that concept was actually like a creative things. And then I realized that, oh, I'm actually good at creative concepting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. That's more or less.
Okay, so when there was a thought in your head to start building an AR effect, how it started?
Oh yeah. Sorry, I lost track. So basically, I was working in advertising agency, and as my title, what I was doing there was actually we find a new title that was like digital creative. So my job was like to for a campaign to see what we can do in with digital tools and digital techs to add something crazier in the main campaign, because like in advertising agency usually there is like, you know, TVC and then prints and then so the traditional kind of like advertising. And so I was like, okay, let's do a crazy website that is interactive. Let's do some AR experience. Let's do this and that. And so I was like, I had a teammate. He was called Bogdan. He was a creative tech, and we were like just like throwing up ideas and there. And so there was a campaign, and we got this idea to do some AR effects. It was in 2018, so there was no AR industry yet back in the days, and I was just playing around with the software that Facebook were developing that is called Spark AR. And yeah, that's it. I was playing around and then having fun and then making prototype for that specific campaign. And then our idea got killed, but I continued to play it with AR for myself. And then I got the access to publish my personal AR effect on my Instagram account. And then I don't know what happened. Like from one day to another, one of my AR effects, the Beauty 3001, got viral, and then like wow, the AR industry became a thing. There was like AR creator, and like yeah, and a lot of things have changed since then.
Yeah. So what was the biggest change for you after publishing this AR effect that made you that famous and helped you to gain that many followers afterwards? Like from now, looking at this moment.
So many things happened. The biggest thing that happened is more introspective, you know, like the impact it got on myself and my personality, and like myself as Joanna, Johwska, you know, like all of the things that it brought up as having a digital identity, and like how you represent yourself online, like fighting my imposter syndrome. You know, like I think the biggest change is like very introspective. How, for example, like when I even went viral, you know, like it was from one day to another. I had no clue about like what it is to be an influencer, what it is to have so much attention on yourself, like. And so I remember I did a burnout, like first, like it was my first burnout. I went independent, but I accepted so many jobs. I was young. I did so many mistakes. I didn't have a very healthy work-life balance. I worked alone, so you know, like I lost a lot of like social wellness, and then I did like a sort of I rejected working alone, so I went back to work in a big company. So I went to the US and I worked for Nike, and it was terrible because I was overwhelmed and underwhelmed at that moment. So it was like the complete opposite.
And what was your role at Nike?
A creative.
Okay.
Yeah, creative in brand design, the brand design umbrella. Yeah, I was a creative. And then COVID happened, and then I went back to Europe. Yeah, so more or less. I think it's the journey that it brought me. I'm super happy it happened, because like how there was bad moments where I was like super overwhelmed with like so much attention and like so much work and so much inputs, but I also learned so much, and I wouldn't be the creative person, the creative Joanna I am today, if I wouldn't have to go through that. So I'm grateful for this. So yeah, this would be the biggest impact. Is more like the ups and down of the self-development journey as a creative.
That's really interesting to hear, and thanks for sharing that. Actually, like having this viral thing, being famous and popular, actually is a burden at one time, right? That you need to struggle with this pressure that you put on you after, gaining so many followers. You don't want to let them down. You want to, create even more projects and more fillers, interesting stuff, so that it become really tough, because you cannot be at that high energy level at the same time. You need to have some, as you mentioned, ups and downs, but because so many people know you from now on, right? You want to be
exactly.
It's always good.
Exactly. It's like it feels like you're not allowed to do some shit, and it goes completely against the direction of what it is to experiment, what it is to be a creative, because like being a creative is like just like vibing around, like, oh, let's do this and that, like, and when you do this and that, like in 5 things you're just like vibing with or like designing, one of them is like, wow, crazy innovative and like crazy interesting and stuff. But if you don't allow yourself to do some shit, then like the crazy interesting things doesn't happen. And when you get so much attention, you feels like for your audience you need to do like higher level kind of work, and just like by putting that kind of weight on your shoulder, you're completely disconnecting from that essence of being, of like freely creating, like without expectations. And like when you put so much expectation on like the outcome and like the thing you need to produce, then you disconnect. And when you disconnect, then you feel off. And yeah, this is like, because you put so much expectation on your work and on the outcome, because of that, you're completely disconnecting from creating and vibing how you used to do.
And can you give us some examples of work you made for your clients back then, and then maybe with years how it changed, what kind of projects you make for your clients? Because probably I assume at the beginning you made, since you went viral with your filters, probably at the beginning they were filters, right, for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, they used to be. I've done like great filters for clients. For example, like the Billie Eilish one was very simple, but like was totally like in the direction of my vibe. And there was like some filters that were like completely out of my vibe, very commercial, and like you're like, you don't want to publish it, or you feel uncomfortable publishing it, and if you signed a contract that you need to do some stories on stuff, like, because this kind of like contract, then you feel like there's a very visual, uncomfortable feeling inside of you when you're publishing. And I think like everybody can like feel it or experience it. Funny, because now when I see this kind of story from some friends or some influencers, I feel so compassionate with them, because I can feel like they have to do it. Maybe they wouldn't do it, but they have to do it. And you can feel like how off and unauthentic it is in that specific story or post. And I'm like, I feel you. But yeah, like there is this visceral kind of feeling when a work is off. Obviously, like, when you're so proud, there's not this kind of feeling. So I don't know. Obviously, when I have this kind of feeling, when I'm designing something that I doesn't vibe with, I don't publish it, so people don't know. I'm like, okay, done. Let's do something else. But yeah, again, like I've had a huge time where even great things, I didn't wanted to post them, because I cared so much about like the outcome, or like how people will see, like what people will think, things like, it's so stupid. But I was in this kind of like insecure kind of moment. I don't know, for example, like I did some collaborations that were just like so flowy and vibey, like a friend of mine that is called Laia, and she's a photographer, and she was like, okay, let's do a shoot together, and because I wanted to make like more highly produced kind of like images and beauty looks, and that's true that like AR effects, the outcome is like very low resolution kind of in mobile output, and I wanted to make something more produced. So with Laia, for example, we're like, oh, let's do a shoot, and you give me the pictures, and then I play around with on the pictures. And so this was no client, it was just us vibing. She sent me the picture, we did the picture, she sent me the picture. I went on Spark AR, started to apply filters, then on Photoshop, then like just vibing around. And then the outcome was like a great image that was a very interesting beauty looks. Shared it on Instagram, and then like very good feedback from the outside, rather than like sometimes like, oh, let's make a campaign with a client, and then you start making like a presentation with really good ideas, and then they choose an idea, then you go to production, then like the idea doesn't work, but like the client doesn't open to bifurcate or to change slightly the design direction. And then they give you like 1 feedback, 2 feedback, 3 feedback, 4 feedback, and it takes like ages to do one thing, and at the end the outcome is like so bad and dry. And so these are two different, like sometimes like things flows and very fast and easy, tac, and sometimes like just take ages, like for something dry and empty.
Yeah, it happens. This is live. But getting back to like more down to earth things like financial stuff, could you share with us like comparing your situation back then when you worked at the agency, and afterwards when you were independent and went viral, so you were known artist in the AR field and playing with different technologies. Like if you could compare the money you earned, like was it like a big change for you? Because
Obviously.
when people see the numbers, right, and think, oh, there's an artist having 500,000 people following her, it's like a really massive number. So you can imagine that, like, whoa, money are flowing to her.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like I got money how never in my life I would have expect to have, but I come from a very modest family also. Like I come from very low. so I think today that it's not that much. I think that people with way less followers that doing the same kind of job as I do can actually earn more money than me if they are more businessy and they like, let's go to talk with this brand and like do some presentation, and not like this, like I'm more like vibey and I just follow my flow. But now today that I'm learning about money and business and stuff,
and the book, The Psychology of Money.
Exactly. Now I'm like, fuck, if I would have been more businessy and took the opportunity to see it as a business and stuff, like I would have made way more money. But I don't care. I mean, this is my journey, like I'm learning right now, and I know that in the next years, like things, I mean, obviously I'm earning good money, but it's not like I'm not a millionaire. Maybe one day I will. Let's
Fingers crossed. It would be nice to monetize. Like each follower is $1, right?
Yeah, and also like because I made like billions of reach with Instagram, and I know that today on Snapchat and on TikTok they actually monetize this, but back in the days didn't work like this on Instagram. And so, maybe, I don't know, this is how it is. But if it would have been monetized, like one reach equals 0.00, I don't know, euro, I would be super rich.
Okay, so I wanted to summarize a little bit what you said, because you said that, okay, you went viral and then you started to make these filters for clients. You made a big money suddenly, and then you felt burnout. And from what I've heard, now you made some decisions to go with your vibe, with your flow of artistic creative things. And you balance it somehow with clients' work. So could you tell us, what did you change after this burnout? What have you understood? And how do you make this balance now?
I mean, it's obviously like not from one day to another, no? It's like every day a little adjustment. I still do some very boring, shitty work, because, I still need some cash flow. I would love that wouldn't have to do this kind of boring works. So this day I'm trying to establish like passive incomes and diversify my incomes. So I built a studio, which has nothing to do with like designing. Is more like a creative space with like other creatives, and let's see what happened with this. But like it's one way to diversify my business incomes. So that's the goal. I want that one day I don't have to rely on boring campaigns, and I can only do like crazy creative experiments, and this is what I actually love to do. When I have time, I'm vibing and I'm experimenting with AI. And sometimes this brings a client, and it brings like a good opportunity to do creative, cool jobs. And sometimes I still do like very boring AR campaigns or whatever it is.
Do you think it's possible to make money on this crazy creative experiments, or not really?
I think so, yeah.
This is how you started, right?
Exactly.
Playing with AR filters, and suddenly... Yeah, you created something for fun.
I guess there are clients who love this kind of style, right? This crazy experiment style.
Exactly. I think so too, and I think like people feel it when you're vibing and you're like doing crazy cool experiments and you share it. Then like it's so authentic. Then like people like it, and then it get more reach and attention and things like this. And and so it brings more clients and stuff. I also think that like the algorithm is changing, the reach is different. I don't know, maybe it's just my mind like talking right now. Like I'm a mom, you know, like I need to have like a safe way to make money, just like to sustain my needs and my daughter's needs and things like this. And like vibing and doing like cool creative experiments and stuff like this, like it needs time.
So maybe you could give us some example, because we already know that you made filters, but it's not your core business anymore, right? Like years passed and now you make a lot of things, like you said at the beginning. And could you tell us one or two examples of the work, this crazy experiment work you love? What you do exactly there? Like what's the subject and what are you doing there? What's your role?
Yeah. So I mean, I built this creative studio that is like more like it started as a shared office, you know, like co-working space, with creatives that have the same vibe as my vibe, like interested like with beauty, fashion, in the multimedia industry. There is one photographer that has no clue about like digital stuff, but he's a good creative. There is another Houdini expert that is amazing. I mean, he has a very beautiful eye on things and a very good taste. He's called Yuri. There is Carlos, is the photographer, and Felina. Felina is a digital artist that also worked in the fashion industry, and she's mixing like, you know, photography and like 3D. But we all interested with AI and with all the tools. So like there's no one tool. We all like experimenting a lot and learning from each other. So we started to do, I mean, I guess today we're like a collective and we just started our first project, and it's missing like photography, concept photography, 3D implementation that could be like also like AI, depend like on what's the idea and the concept, but it's like making image. And for example, like I just launched, I did an editorial on a magazine like in Madrid called Jaką. And so it was basically like photography with like things that are on top of fabrics or on top of the face that can look real, that are not real. Everything is made with AI on the photography, but it's like, this is what I love to do with AR or with AI or whatever. It's like finding the fine line in between something that is real and something that is not, and provoke this visceral thing in the user or in the spectator, the people that see the art, this visceral thing of like, what the fuck is this? Is this real? So this is like the fine line that I love to play with. And yeah, and so these days I'm playing with AI a lot because I love it, but it can be made with AR or
Sometimes it's hard to describe what you do because it's so on the edge of things. So we encourage everyone who is listening to us or watching us to go to Joanna's profile on Instagram and check what is that exactly.
Yeah. Just like to give some visual image. So for example, there was a picture, a portrait of myself in a blue background, and then there is like something on my face that looks like glass that is mixing with my my face, and that is weird, but it really brings this kind of visual and visceral effect of like what the fuck.
And also on the top of that, it's really beautiful and aesthetic. So
amazing.
And what tools do you use? Because you mentioned AI. do you use some specific apps for your work?
Yeah, I mean, for research and ideation, like visual ideation, I use Midjourney. Is my favorite. And then this is like just, I think Midjourney is great to vibe, like to create some visual concepts and like crazy new imagery. And then like to produce on an image, I use Stable Diffusion. So depends. It can be through Invoke, or Invoke is the interface of Stable Diffusion, or it can be like Comfy UI. I mean, literally, it's basically the same thing. It's just the interface that changed. So that's what I use. And then like AR wise, I use Spark AR, but the Spark AR is dying next January. And so I started to put my hands on Snapchat, which is called Lens Studio. And maybe I will put my hands on TikTok, but like, yeah, if I have time.
Yeah. It's also interesting because, a lot of tools require at least to have a basic technical knowledge, to understand what you do. It's not popular among artists to be, eager to find out more about like geeky things. Then you mentioned that you were a nerd. So I think that it makes a bit the whole issue easier. But if you could share with us like about your technical background, like you mentioned that you're self-taught, but it's not very easy to get into tech world, in the first place, because sometimes it's too confusing for non-techie people. So like, how do you do it? Like, and also another question is that do you know how to code, to like the basics?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think like it's more of a mindset than like a knowledge, because today we have access to so many things. You can learn how to code, but if you know how to code but you don't have like a drive to do something, you will not do anything. What I have is I have many drives. No? So depend on what drives me. If like back in the days when I didn't know anything about AR, my drives were more like Unity 3D and like mixing video games and web design. So that were my drives, and from that drives, then like I was looking for tutorials, opening templates, breaking things, and learning by experimenting, learning by getting closer to my goal. And also for the sake of learning, because it's fun, no? To just like, oh, you can do this. Let's see what we can do. And just like vibing and experimenting in this. I obviously have now a knowledge with like programming, but like each software has a different programming language. It can be like node-based. It can be like scripts. It can be like, there's so many, like coding is so vast, it doesn't mean anything, coding, because it's a language. There are so many different languages. Can you talk? Yes, I can talk in English, I can talk in French, I can talk Spanish. It's the same with coding. In which language can you code? You can code in CSS, in JavaScript, in node-based, which is like no writing, but like with visual notes and boxes that you connect together. It's more like I think the programming is about the mindset of finding something and finding the way to make it happen. And then you have a base and it's kind of broken, and you find a way so that it's not broken, so you're fixing the bugs and you make it so that it works in the way you want it to work. I don't think I'm a good programmer or I'm a good coder, because obviously like good programmers would see my notes and my script as like terrible. But I'm not aiming to be a programmer or, like that's not my goal. Just like trying out, seeing how it works. And I think it's more like a hacker mindset. There's so many things we can do with one single tool. I think this mindset comes from the way I grew up in a very modest family in the beginning of the internet, where there was like torrents. We could hack video game consoles. So I remember I had the Dreamcast, and there was a way to download a loader and download a video game. So back in the days, you could like engrave the loader and then put it on the Dreamcast, and then after the loader, you could like put any kind of video game you downloaded online. And so this is like a hacker mindset, like it's just like, or I don't have money to watch this movie, but like back in the days there was torrent, so there was a way to like watch this movie or this series or this manga or whatever, like. And so in a way, it's the same thing that I'm replicating when I want to do something. I'm like, oh, I would love to do this. How can I do this? And then I start to learn about like one software. I found a tutorial about that software. I start to learn the basics, or the basics that I need to learn. I don't need to learn everything about the software to start using it. And then I found a template that is closer to the project I want to do. I open the template, I'm lost, and then I start to understand how it works. Then I break everything that I open the template again, and then I understand how it works. And then I change the assets, and I change the things in the way I want them to be. And yeah, things happen.
Yeah, everything is remixed.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. It's really inspiring approach, I think, that like having open mind and like trying things out, not to be too afraid that, oh my God, it's like a new programming language, but I just want to try out, right?
Yeah, and also like there is a lot of similarity in any of those programming languages. And for sure today with ChatGPT, you can just like, you don't even know how to learn how to code today to be able to do something, because ChatGPT can do it for you.
What inspires you? I'm really curious if you have some people you follow, if they are, I don't know, artists, designers, or maybe some technical people, or maybe you find inspiration in some totally other fields. How you do it?
Everything. Anything. I have like some of my favorite creatives. Is Maya French, for example. She's a makeup artist, nothing to do, but like she have made project with like different multimedia tools and techniques as well. But like she's a vibe, and I love her vibe. Photographers, cinema, life in general. I don't know. I guess like there's no one thing. There's just like many things, and it's always changing my inspirations. Yeah, these days I'm really obsessed with self-development and wellness and skincare, and and I'm mixing it with my creative background and my nerdy touch.
This is what I've expected, to be honest. you take from everything.
Yeah, and being specific about Madrid, are there any events there, or I don't know, meetups? You mentioned that Patio, the creative space that you set up with other people, the collaborative team. But are there any other places like that? In Madrid?
Yeah, there is a lot. The creative art scene, design, architecture is huge. The art scene is more like the more popular art scene in Madrid is more like tangible, painting, design, and stuff. But there is a scene for digital media, and it's great. And yeah, there is a bigger scene in Barcelona about digital media, 3D and stuff like that is already established since many years. But it's also great that there is an opportunity in Madrid to create that scene. And it's I'm grateful to be already connected with that scene, and how there is a lot of opportunities in Madrid, and it's great. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I'm also really curious about the project the place that you set up, like I get renovated. Like, could you tell us more about the building itself? Because it seems like, it's a big thing, right? Because I saw the pictures of the patio. It's amazing. It's beautiful, and I strongly recommend everyone to visit the Instagram to check it out. It's creative, totally creative space when you feel like the creative juices are flowing there, definitely. But if you could, share us more details, like how did you find the place, like about the investment, and where you were alone there to start everything, like from the legal side as well.
Of course. So, okay, let's start with the beginning. I've traveled a lot. I lived in Berlin, then I lived in the US, then I moved to Spain, and I think I was 27, 28, or 29. Yeah, like this. I was in Spain, and I was like, fuck, Madrid. I love that city. And, I had this super... like sometimes without knowing why, but this is where you want to stay, where you want to be. Like, obviously, it's intuition. My intuition told me, like, this is it. This is where I want to just, like, be based. And yeah, so it started like this. So I was like, my first year, I learned Spanish in 1 year. I don't know, I got so integrated to the city, so many friends, a very social... it's a very interesting city socially, because it's very open-minded. People mix. It's very open. I love Madrid. It's a very great city. Anyway, I felt like I'm gonna stay here, and then I was like, okay. So also I was in a period of my time where, like, okay, now I make money, but like I was so irresponsible with money, like, and that's why I want to learn, like, the psychology of money today, because I was very responsible. I was just traveling and spending my money and going to party and, like, being there and here and that. Very, very irresponsible. I've never think about buying something and investing. I had no clue about what investment means back in the day. I was just like vibing and being very adolescent. And my sister, she's 9 years older, she's totally the inverse of that. And she told me, Joanna, you need to start investing. She's working in finances. She's very creative, but like in her industry, we're really different, but there is some similarities anyway. And she's my older sister, so she always had like this parental kind of mindset with me, like, you need to do this better. And she's perfectionist, so like, oh, terrible. Anyway, started to seed the seed of like investment, being responsible about money, blah blah blah, when I used to be like very reckless and irresponsible, and the seed started to grow. And now I knew that I wanted to be based here. I had like, okay, maybe I should start thinking about investing here, stop paying a rent, because when you pay a rent, like, that's true, you actually like throwing money by the window, and like the rents are getting higher and higher and higher, like that kind of vibe. So back in the day, I was sharing the office with a friend of mine, which is also a designer and architect that had a studio called Fonte in Madrid. He's called Guillermo Trapello. And I was like, oh, well, I would love to buy something. And we got this idea, oh yeah, it's cheap to buy a industrial place, kind of loft, and we could work on a reform to make it like a cool loft space. So, my dream always been like to have a house that was a loft and, you know, this kind of idea, no? And then I was like, okay, let's do it. My intuition told me like, okay, let's do it. So we started to make a group with the architects that are also friends of mine. And we started to look for industrial spaces. We found one. I bought it cash. And it was terrible. I mean, it's the riskiest and the stupidest kind of investment I did. But like, this is me. Like, I love risks. I spent not all my money, no, but I spent a lot of money like buying cash because I didn't had enough years of like fiscal identity in Spain. So I couldn't find any credits. So I had to buy cash. And then like, I think I found a credit like 6 months later when I had like finally 3 years of fiscal thing. Anyway, then I got a credit. And then I started to pay the reform with the architect, and it came out. It was very long. Also got pregnant at the same moment.
Oh, terrible. Wow. two big projects.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. And so it was supposed to be my home, my dream home. And then I got pregnant. And then I gave birth. And then I realized, what a stupid idea to work in the same place where your family home, no? What a stupid idea. And so I changed that idea. I was like, okay, let's change direction because this is not going to work. It's not healthy to have your creative space in the same space where you have home. It's like mixing everything. It's not healthy for the mind. It's not healthy for the body. You're just always in the same space in the loop, and it's terrible it's not good. So I changed the idea and I said like, okay, let's do a creative space and let's make like events for the creative community and stuff like this. And yeah, and this is what happened. And so we started as a creative co-working space. We're like 4 now, very beautiful creative people, and there is such a good synergy in between each other. So we're starting to make like a collective all together, and I love it. It makes me feel so, we're so open to each other, and we all created with the same kind of like insecurities and creative problems that should like, when you face those creative problems as a freelancer or independent with other creatives, then like, wow, vocalizing it, talking about it, talking vulnerably about your problems with one another, it makes such a huge difference. And such a safe space for us, and so there's such a good synergy. I don't know, it's so good for my system. And yeah, and so I'm step by step developing this space where I'm also renting the space because it's a very beautiful, designly beautiful space. So for photo shoot and things like this, I invested in all the material to make photo shoot. Carlos is a photographer, so when we do a project with photography, we have everything in house. I also call it like a kindergarten for creatives because it's a little bit of this, you know, like we're all like 4 like creative, and we're just like kids playing around with tools. Right now the renting part is more like this way to make like passive income, and I also want to create even for the community, the creative community and digital community, and see how it goes. So yeah, this is my way to take the cap of a businesswoman, and I think it's a joke, but I love that joke, and I want to play that game for a while and see how I learn, you know, like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's amazing story, and what really resonates with me, I think with Aga as well, is what you said about your friends, that you have this safe space with them, with in co-working and everything. And we also really appreciate this kind of relationships. So how did you guys met? Like, are they all from Spain, or maybe they are expats like you?
No, they're all from Spain.
Oh.
The crazy thing in Spain, in Madrid here, is that I don't know any expat. Like all my friends are from Madrid or from Spain. It's crazy, you know?
Wow.
Like, and that's why I think I had this feeling of like, yeah, this is it. This is where I'm going to be based, because I'm so integrated to the city. It's not like in Berlin, I was only vibing with other expats, you know?
Mm.
In Berlin, I had a really hard time to really deeply connect to the German Berliner culture, because you always like speaking in English, very difficult to learn the language and stuff like this. But yeah, anyway, like, yeah, Madrid. No, I don't know how it happened. Very slowly, it just happened. Yeah, connections from, I don't know, I didn't make any announce. It just happened from someone that knew someone that, oh, let's talk about it. And she has a very friends of friend that felt the vibe and that connected us, and then we connected, and I don't know, things just happened very naturally. And this is also why I think there is not forced. It just like naturally flows with a natural energy and vibe, and it feels good, no? You know, like to don't force to get somewhere, like I want to do this. No, it's just like, let's build this and see how it goes, and then like naturally things happens.
Right. I think it's a really nice thing and a success, because it's not easy to make this kind of deep relationships with people in different country when you're an expat, right? And the language is new for you. Everything is new for you, right? Of course, we share the European culture, but it's always a little bit different in different country.
Yeah, I got integrated really fast. It was very crazy. Like when I got integrated in Madrid was like the post-COVID time. So it was a very interesting, out of being like in confinement, then like things open up and then you re-socialize and you re-socialize in a deeper way. I wasn't scared about like making mistakes. I still do many mistakes. I speak really good Spanish, but I still do like some funny mistakes, but I think it's really funny and I think everybody loves it. I love it. I mean, yeah. So
congrats on learning Spanish so fast.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so getting back to a little bit to work and projects, could you briefly take us through the steps you take when you join a new project? So a client reach you out, you agree that you want to work with each other, and what happens next? Because your work seems to be very experimental, right? It's tough to like put it in a box and set some sorts of the rules, but maybe you already have like a workflow for you. So if you could share it with us, because I think it would be really interesting for other creatives how you actually work.
Of course. I mean, obviously it depends on the work, no? If, you know, like if it's the project with Jean-Paul Gaultier, for example, for a campaign, then like it's very straightforward, no? It's like, okay, we want a filter for the blah, blah, blah campaign, and this is the vibe of the campaign, and we want a filter. What do you propose?
Yeah, and usually how much time do you need to work on projects like that, like creating a filter for a campaign?
It depends. Sometimes, you know, when it's a filter for fashion show, you have 1 week. When it's a filter for a campaign, you have like 3-4 months. So it really depends. Obviously, you can do something in 1 week, but like it's like so rushed. It's like, but then you're like, oh, it's a fashion show. It's a good brand, blah, blah, blah. And then you do it and you're like, But it's also great. You know, like, you know what? Sometimes I do like when it's rushed, because you're such in a creative tunnel. You do tack, 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 tack. It's very intense, but you can make it in 1 week or 2, rather than like sometimes when it's like 6 months project, it's just like you do other things at the same time. You disconnect, you reconnect. Disconnecting, reconnecting takes a lot of time too. Anyway. We're like going to another direction again. So yeah, let's take an example of like I'm doing a Jean-Paul Gaultier face filter, for example, for the campaign. So they say me, oh, we have this new campaign. What do you propose? So I start making a presentation with a mood board, and I start proposing like 1, 2, 3 ideas depending, and I do like visual ideas. So it's just a mood board, how it works, how it would look like, some references, and I pitch the presentation to the client. Then the client give me a direction. Then based on the direction, I fine tune the actual direction based on the feedback, and then after that phase, I start prototyping. So the prototyping phase can be fast or can be very long, depending on how much I have to learn new things based on the idea, yes or no. So it really depends. This is a very difficult phase for me. It's also very exciting because I love to learn new things and I love to spend some time experimenting, but experimentation can be like endless. And so this is the phase where I start like building up the rough filter. So it can take like 2-3 weeks, depending on the time we have. So there are 2 cases. The first case is the easy one. You start building, everything works well, and there is no problem, and then you spend the last week fine-tuning and done. The second case that happened is that there is an update on the software. You need to fix the problem. The things you had in mind doesn't work, or it looks like shit. You need to find another direction that looks better. Or you experiment, and by experimenting and starting to build your thing, you find something better. And then you're like, oh, so this is what I propose, but I propose this too. It looks so much fun. Sometimes we go in that direction, sometimes not. So yeah, I think the creative process is also allowing yourself to that kind of surprise. Yeah, and then the last steps is creating assets. So the icon, record a video. If you want to post a nice, well-produced asset, so some pictures, that's more or less the process for an AR filter for like a campaign or something like this.
You mentioned that you're fascinated by AI. You mentioned Midjourney, the other tools as well, ComfUI. Could you maybe give us one example of the work that you produced with AI and work with a client on that?
For example, I did a sort of with a Studio Alia, which is a new creative studio for creative, cool digital culture, I would say, in the fashion and beauty world. They made a sort of like a manifesto, and I did a sort of like a day in a life, kind of like a mini AI picture experiment where it's like just like, you know, like an Instagram posts of a day in a life made by AI. So it's like follow this kind of like AI character having a day in the lives, but made with Midjourney. So, you know, like the AI touch with Midjourney is like, it looks real, but you feel the vibe, but something is very surrealistic and there are some weird details and like things are mixed up. So that is an example of an editorial. Another example is like the editorial I did with a magazine that I just launched the past weeks. It's like some pictures of myself. We did a shoot and then I worked on applying some weird digital pieces on top of it that are inspired by jewelry pieces that were on the shoot. That they're jewelry made of glass, so I reused the same kind of vibe to make some sort of under eyes pieces, or like on top of the dress. And so as there is like the picture with the real jewelry, you don't know what's real and what's not. I really love to play with this. So this is another example with AI. Yeah, for now that's it.
There's also this decision of Meta that the Instagram filters are going to be deprecated. So how do you feel about it? And are you worried how it affects your work? How do you deal with this decision?
Mixed feelings. So I think the first days I was like, I had a hard time to accept it. I think the whole feeling, the whole idea of it is like a grieving kind of process, you know, like having a hard time to accept it, and at the same time like a lot of excitement for what's next, you know. I guess I think I accepted it right now. I'm also a little bit worried about like the financial aspect, because like my work was mainly based on Instagram filters. I already started to learn Lens Studio, and I think I love it. I mean, it's a great tool, so I'm gonna vibe there. Excitement to also maybe like detach myself from doing just one thing, you know, like I think I always had a hard time with seeing myself being just like an AR filter maker, or like, you know, like being only in the AR industry, although like I'm not doing only this, but like maybe it's a good opportunity to show off like my other kind of works, and like working more with photography and AI and 3D and all that other stuff. But yeah, a grieving process, worried, scared, excited. Also like there is this, you know, like realizing that like most of my work were depending on Meta and Spark, this platform, and knowing that this platform can just vanish in one day is just, I think it's sad and scary, but also like it's a good thing, because now I just want to diversify my incomes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's a good thing, you know, like I'm grateful for that lesson.
Yeah.
Do you know why they made this decision?
I don't know, to be honest. I suppose, okay, this is my supposition. I think Meta wants to be the next Apple. Meta invested a lot of money on building devices, so they started to make like Meta Ray-Ban, which are the intelligent eyewear with some cameras, and with Llama, which is the AI model from Meta. So you can talk with the glasses, and you say, "Hey Meta, what blah blah blah. Hey Meta, where did I park my car? Hey Meta, take a photo." Things like this. It's actually like great looking piece of technology, and I think it's a cool tool for creators and people that doing like creating content on social media. And they also built like Oculus, and since years already they're really into the VR world, and they want to invest more in this. And I think they want to invest more in mixed reality. They built the very first good looking piece of AR glasses that it's just a prototype. They announced it in the MetaConnect like a few weeks ago. It's really good piece of technology. But obviously, like, I guess, you know, like, I guess they need to detach themselves from face filters to be more on the AR mixed reality realm. And for that, you know, like, maybe they want the creators to go into more the mixed reality realm and stop like developing on Spark AR. I don't know. They still gonna use Spark AR like internally. Maybe they want like brands to work directly with Meta and don't work with creators, so they internalize the income they can have with brands. I don't know. I think they're going to be filters, but like in-house filters, like filters from Meta, not filters from creators. Or maybe they're going to collaborate. I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's sad, but yeah, this is how it is. I'm also excited to see a platform without filters. So, I mean, I'm controversial, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So, Joanna, the last question. What are the skills, or maybe one skill that you would like to focus on in the upcoming weeks or months? Maybe there's something that you would like to learn?
A skill. Okay.
Psychology of money, maybe.
Definitely. I think I want to learn business. Yeah, I think I want to learn business so that I can live a life without worrying so much about money and like vibe much more. I think this is what I want to focus on. I'm there. Understand. I'm getting there.
Yeah, we really like this approach, actually.
Yeah.
So we care about financial stuff and all the Excels and everything, so we can free our mind to be creative.
Exactly. I mean, I think they should like insist more in art school and design school about the business side of things, because you know, like you can be an artist and have a good and make good money, you know. It's not like, I think we should detach ourselves with this idea of like a creative and designer that is like, you know, like a rat in a small studio that is like stinky and stuff, you know, like I wish I would have learned about money like earlier in my life.
Keeping fingers crossed, for your journey.
Better now or never.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanna. We wish you a lot of creative projects, energy, and a lot of money, of course.
Thank you. I wish you all the same.
Thank you too.
And for anyone that is listening to that podcast, everything is possible. Let's make it happen.
Yes. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. You can find notes and links to this episode on our website, designpractice.pl/063.
If you like our podcast, subscribe it on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube. Go ahead and leave your comments on Spotify. We'll be super grateful for your feedback.